Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Veda and this is The Simple Budget. Here on my channel I show you how my family is using the zero-based budgeting method in order to maintain a simplified financial life. If that sounds like content that you're interested in, I would love it if you would hit the subscribe button and join our little crew here. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. Well, hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. It is Bonus Content Wednesday, and as you can tell from the title, it is a video that I have never ever filmed before. I'm going to be talking about our 2025 financial goals with you guys today. We've never done a video like this before. I've never done a video like this before because when we first started the channel, I keep saying we. I'm the one who primarily runs this channel. I know my husband is a fan favorite, but he's not here. I started this channel in January of 2023, I think. Yes, January of 2023. And our goal that year was to get out of debt. We had nearly $60,000 of debt looming over us. And so the idea of planning for a financial goal outside of pay off your debt was certainly unrealistic and it would have felt like I'm almost like mentally detrimental to try to plan for anything outside of that because we were not going to achieve that goal inside of 1 year. And so making some sort of arbitrary financial goal, apart from don't spend irresponsibly so that you can pay off your $60,000 of debt it just wasn't practical. And then we started 2024 still in debt. And so creating a financial goal list still sort of felt unrealistic and unattainable with that in mind. It's not like we didn't have hopes for things or, hope to pay off our debt in 2024, which we did. That was our main financial goal, but planning anything outside of that still just didn't feel reasonable or realistic. We just wanted to kind of get out of debt. We knew that we were going to start saving for our emergency fund, which we did. And so outside of that, our goals were next to nothing, essentially. This year, though, the fog is lifting a little bit and we're starting to enter into a realm of being able to plan outside of the box, so to speak, of where we had been trapped for the last 2 years. And that was, dealing with all of our irresponsible life choices that got us into $60,000 worth of debt. And so now we're just sort of in a place where it's like, okay, we can sit down, we can think about things, we can set goals for ourselves and achieve them. And so that is what I wanted to talk with you guys about today, because a lot of times, especially with my content, I want my content to be educational. And so I don't really talk outside of those videos about what our actual plans are. I mean, if you're following along from week to week, you really get to see the big picture of sort of how things play out. But I don't really sit and talk about it because I like my content to just sort of fit into that niche of how we're making our budget function for us from week to week. So anyways, I thought this would be a good opportunity to sit down and chat about these things with you guys. Also, it's a good video that I can sort of direct you to if you have any questions about why we're making decisions that we're making on a week-to-week basis. This really will give you the bigger picture idea for what our goals are and why we do the things that we do and why we make the decisions that we make. So we like to be fully transparent here and let you know what it looks like, where we are in that moment. And this will certainly serve as a tool for that. So first and foremost, we are loosely following the Dave Ramsey baby step guidance. And so just a brief synopsis of that. I will also leave the baby steps up on the screen for you here as well. Baby step number 1 is to save $1,000 in a high yield savings account for a mini emergency while you're working on baby step 2. Baby step 2 is to pay off all of your debt. We went back and forth when we were paying off our debt, utilizing the snowball method and what do they call it? The avalanche method. Whatever way you do, just do it. Just pay off your debt. I promise you that alone is enough to just make you feel hopeful for the future. And stay out of debt. Don't get back into it. Make sure that you are adapting your practices over the course of time that it takes you to pay off your debt, so that moving forward, you don't end up back in debt because you didn't really retrain your brain on however you handle your finances. Baby step number 3, which is where we are right now, is saving up 3 to 6 months of expenses and an emergency fund. And so the fluctuation there of 3 to 6 months is sort of where our own personal sort of diversion from the plan is going to come in. Our first goal, first and foremost, is to hit 3 months of expenses in a high yield savings account, so that in the event of emergency, job loss, whatever, we can at least live for 3 months without really changing things up too much without getting super duper scared if my husband were to lose his job, because we are a single income household, because my Etsy income and my YouTube income are not going to make up for the loss of my husband's job. So that's our number one goal. And then actually after we reach that goal of 3 months of expenses, we're actually going to put a pause on saving for our emergency fund and do some other things that will benefit us or our family or our household in some capacity before we actually rearrange our budget and then move towards saving for the 6 months of expenses. And actually all of these details are going to be discussed in this video. So that is our primary goal in 2025. Like the overarching goal is to save up 3 to 6 months, fully 6 months of expenses in our high yield savings account. But how we get there is going to be like a little bit of a curvy road. And like I said, I'm going to explain more in just a minute here. In addition to that, or on top of it, Mr. Simple and I are still kind of discussing the finer details of these things. But the other thing that I would like to have is $2,000 specifically set aside for medical expenses, $1,000 each set aside for home maintenance and car expenses. So one of the things that I have learned over the past 2 years, if I've learned anything, is that medical expenses, when they come up, and they will come up, you will need, at some point, you're going to have to go to the emergency room. Obviously, I'm not talking about like month to month or day-to-day medical expenses, like just generic doctor appointments and dental appointments and things like that. But like emergencies that come up, like emergency room visits, that is, I mean, depending on what your healthcare plan is, that's like $250 a pop. That's what it is for us. So we spend all this time building up our medical envelope, but it gets wiped out with one visit to the emergency room. And I think we've had like 4 in the last year or so. And so what I would like to do is to have that money sitting in a high yield savings account. So $2,000 for medical, $1,000 for home maintenance, $1,000 for car expenses. And then it's earning interest every month in the high yield savings account. And maybe, sorry, I thought I was being interrupted. And maybe being able to reduce what we put toward those things every month, still treating them like a sinking fund that we're saving money toward every single month, but with $2,000, $1,000, and $1,000 sitting aside for each of those categories, it would reduce what we could put toward it every single month, and it would still be earning interest, and we would be putting money toward it. And so those two combined efforts would really help to continue funding those categories of our budget. We are still working out the finer details of, are we going to save 6 months and $2,000, $1,000, and $1,000, or are we including the $2,000, $1,000, and $1,000 in with the 6 months and we were just earmarking them specifically? We're still working out those details, but suffice to say, those are sinking fund categories that we are particularly concerned about and want to make sure that we have that much money earmarked toward them, so that in the event of maybe a household emergency or a medical emergency or a car emergency, we can help to supplement our emergency fund if it goes beyond what we have saved for each of those categories. So that is our plan in total for emergency fund. Getting to 3 months of expenses, putting a pause, doing some other things, which I am going to talk about now, and then rearranging our budget, and then finishing out saving up for 6 months of expenses. And then, of course, factoring in the medical, car expenses, and home maintenance funds in particular, with those amounts that I said factored into that equation. Thing the second, and this is part of our budget rearrangement. up to this point, we have not been tithing and we have not had a giving fund in any capacity in our budget. And that is going to change in 2025. Any tithing or giving that we were doing prior to paying off our debt was put on hold while we paid our debt down. I recognize that maybe not everybody would do it that way. That is just how we chose to do it, and we are no longer feeling comfortable doing that anymore. And so what our goal is for this year is to start giving to both the church and some other charitable organizations that we feel very strongly or feel very called to give to. And so that is going to be what happens after we do a little bit of budget rearranging. So as I mentioned before, we are going to be putting a pause on our investment into our emergency fund after we reach 3 months of expenses in there. So that's going to be $18,000. Once we reach $18,000 in our high yield savings account for an emergency fund, we're going to pause putting extra money toward that. We're going to be funding a house project that is super duper important to us, which I will be talking about later. Once that house project is funded, we are going to rearrange our budget so that moving forward, about $500 a month. And you guys will see this when we do our budget with me. So it's not like this is going to be a secret, but we're going to do about $500 in a variety of different ways that is going to go toward our different giving preferences, I'll say. And then $1,500 is going to go into our high yield savings account to finish out saving for our 6 months of expenses. So like I said, we're going to pause the emergency fund investment. We're going to save up for a house project. And then after the house project, that one particular house project is saved up for, we're going to start splitting the $2,000 a month that is currently going toward our savings fund, our emergency fund. $500 of that is going to go toward giving endeavors, and then $1,500 of that is going to finish out our 6 months of emergency fund expenses. And so that's how we're doing that moving forward, because like I've mentioned, up to this point, we haven't been doing any charitable giving, and that is just not something we're comfortable with doing moving forward as a family. Once we get to 3 months of expenses, we feel like we have a little bit of breathing room that we can restart our charitable giving. So that is goal number 2 for us. Goal number 3, since we were just talking about the house project, I'll just piggyback on that. The first house project, so once we reach our 3 months of expenses in a high yield savings account for our emergency fund, we are going to pause our savings into our emergency fund, and we are going to start saving for a reverse osmosis water filtration system for our whole house. We are very, very concerned about the contents of our water. Frankly, you should be if you live anywhere in the United States. And it's something that's really important to us. I recognize that people prioritize things differently in their lives, but there are there are different reverse osmosis systems that you can do. You can get one that just filters the water that comes out of your kitchen tap, which is certainly a wonderful alternative if you don't want to do a whole house system, because the water that you're drinking obviously is super duper important for it to be clean and free of all kinds of stuff that is in our water. But also your skin is your largest organ, and it soaks up anything that you put onto it. And so for us, doing the whole house filtration system just feels better, and making sure that we've got clean water touching our bodies, especially for me and my daughter who are prone toward skin-related issues. I don't really have that many skin-related issues anymore because I eat the carnivore diet, and so that mitigates a lot of drama that could happen with my skin. But my daughter, we're dealing with a skin issue with her right now, and I can't figure out what it is. So this will just kind of help with that. So that is the major house project that we're going to be working on. And it is not something that we just want to kind of throw supplemental money toward. We want to just get this thing funded and installed so that we can move forward then after that with our new budget of giving and saving for our emergency fund. So we're going to complete that. Hopefully it will only take like 2 to 3 months of putting all of our extra money toward that to save up for it before we can move into our new budgeting system. And then this is like a stretch goal. This is like a hopefully goal, but hopefully at some point in 2025, we can also start saving up or completely save up for a deep freezer, because what we really want to do in line with like health related things, we really want to invest in buying a cow from a local farmer and getting the meat from there. So that would be like our stretch 2025 house project dream goal. But I'm still saying it and listing it because I'm hopeful that we can eke this one out. This may be a pipe dream, but it would be super cool if in 2026 I could look back on this video and say, oh my gosh, we did it. So anyways, like I said, it's a stretch goal, but that is another house project that I would really like for us to work toward. Again, from a health standpoint, it just makes more sense to support, especially in these times, a local farmer who has clean practices and humane treatment of the animals and, getting that good quality meat from him or her, if it's a female farmer, would be super cool to be able to achieve. But obviously we need the deep freezer to store it in. So whenever we do achieve it, it's going to be a 2-for-1 sort of house project, saving for the deep freezer and saving for our first cow. And then we're going to divert grocery money. After we save for our first cow, we're going to divert grocery money every single month toward the savings of our next cow purchase. So from that point going forward, it would essentially be grocery money, but it would be specifically earmarked for buying a cow in the future as well. So we really want to, kind of rejig the way we do our groceries and try to support as many local things as we possibly can. And starting with a cow is a really good way to go. So anyways, that is number 3. And then financial goal number 4 is actually sort of one that falls on me a little bit more directly. I'm hoping to save this year for a specific business venture. I'm not talking about it right now because I'm still researching it. I'm still looking at possibilities and options. And this is a very, 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 very early stages for me. And it has nothing to do with budgeting or anything like that. This would just be a business venture for that would mostly be my baby, that would bring in some semi-passive and semi-active income into our house as well. Because I never just want to be, and believe me, I'm not saying that stay-at-home moms are a drain on the household, because they certainly are not. Stay-at-home moms do a lot of the work or stay-at-home parents do a lot of the work that enable the working parent to be able to do what they do. It's a team effort. It's a joint effort. But especially given that I'm probably 83% of the reason why we had $60,000 of debt, I use that to motivate me now to do things that help to bring income into the household that still give us the lifestyle that we love, but helps to pad our finances and our budget in a way that is just beneficial for our entire family. So I will obviously be updating you guys more on that. I'm just not sharing it entirely yet because I don't want to put out information that I am not really 100% sure of. But that is our 4th, overall 2025 financial goal. And those are the only financial goals that we have in our household this year for our family, for the totality of the budget that we create here. But I did want to talk personally about me and my spending. We are very fortunate that we each get some spending money every single month. And if you have been around my channel for even 3 minutes, you know that I am the spender and my husband is the saver. And so for me personally, my goal this year in 2025 is to be much more intentional with my spending. I am definitely a person who is subject to falling for impulse purchases. I don't put a lot of thought sometimes into what I'm buying. I definitely, I know my style very well, and I'm a clothes person. So I know my style very well. And so when I see something that, I think I just gave myself a splinter. when I see something that fits in with my style and is a piece in my wardrobe that I'm lacking, I definitely am more prone to snapping it up without really thinking like, do you need that right now? Will that still be here in 6 months? Can you save up for that better? Or is there a better quality item that would match that item that you're about to impulse buy, that you could spend a couple weeks saving for as opposed to just grabbing it right now? So those are the things that I want to think about moving forward, because I'm definitely moving, especially like as I've gotten older and I get to know my style better. I am, well, and certainly the quality of clothing and the lack of natural materials that we utilize in fashion now is just so bad. And so I'm definitely moving toward making more conscious purchases anyway when it comes to making sure that what I'm putting on my skin is not harming me. Like polyester is super duper bad. Like, I mean, just any synthetic material that we have that is being made into clothing is generally not going to be good for your skin. The way that it's processed or milled or whatever it is just generally bad for you. And so moving toward those more conscious purchases, but also just not impulse buying, thinking about what it is that I'm doing, thinking about how I can maybe wait it out or save for it better. Or if there's something that I really want, like a really high quality pair of shoes or a really high quality bag or something like that, just being more intentional about saving for those things. And so you are going to see the introduction of a Her savings envelope in our low priority spending that I'm going to start putting money in from my own personal spending total that I get every month. And if there's, spending money that I get from Etsy and YouTube income as well at the end of the month. So I'm going to start introducing that into my patterns so that I am intentional and thoughtful with the purchases that I'm making, and making sure that I am thinking through all of the finer details of how I want to spend my money. Okay, we knew I would be interrupted, and I was, but I fixed it. Anyways, like I was saying, my focus for this year, just to kind of recap on that, is to just be so much more intentional with my spending. I am going to allow myself like a little bit of frivolous spend money here and there, but by and large, I want to make sure that I'm setting money aside for things that actually matter to me, will impact me from a long-term standpoint. Like I can think of a variety of different clothing items that I would like to include into my wardrobe. And I can think of a variety of different, it's usually all surrounding clothes, if I'm being perfectly honest, but like shoes and bags. Like there are some things that I want to include in my wardrobe that are classic pieces, but I want really good quality items rather than just going the fast fashion route and not really having those items long term. And that sort of contributes to all kinds of like landfill problems and all that kind of stuff. So really for me personally, it's just making more intentional fashion purchases moving forward, I guess, is really the aim here, but still allowing for me to have those little like quick impulse, frivolous purchases as well. So I'm trying to introduce a little bit of balance there, but also making sure that I lost all of my English. A good chunk of my spending money every single month is going towards saving for things that are meaningful rather than things that are quick and easy. So that is my big thing. And actually in that vein, I'm going to be sort of changing up the way that I spend my home decor budget as well. That is something that I don't fund personally. It comes from, I guess I sort of do. It comes from our side income. So my Etsy and YouTube income are the two categories of income that I use to fund home decor purchases in the house. And given that candles are on their way out, unfortunately for me, this is like the last holdout for me as far as having non-toxic things around my home. Candles are very toxic. And so once I burn through my stash, I am no longer going to be repurchasing any candles to bring into my home. So I won't miss the cozy things, the cozy aspect of that. But, I would rather lose the cozy and gain, hormone function that works really well. So it's balanced. But to that end, my home decor envelope, which has been used up to this point to fund my candle and coffee mug habit, is now going to actually go toward more meaningful purchases for inside of our home too. So many of you will know that I was saving for new couch pillows for our living room couch for a really long time. And it took me a really long time to do that because I kept impulse buying candles. That's no longer going to be a thing. And now I'm moving toward looking for curtains for my dining room. There's a specific reason why I'm starting with my dining room. We will get into that as we get into future house project conversations. But I'm starting with my dining room because it is the room in our house that is going to get like the biggest makeover the soonest. So anyways, that's the theme also for this year is intentional purchases, intentional living, intentional purchases. And that will just kind of set the stage for future years as well. So I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope that it was inspirational to you in some way. I cannot stress to you enough, like we would not be dreaming like this if it weren't for doing the work that first 17 months of paying down all of that debt. Once you remove that ginormous cloud from over top of your head, the peace that you feel and the excitement and hope that you have for your financial future completely shifts. We paid off the debt when that final payment was made, and we like celebrated personally, but it didn't actually feel different. We just sort of noticed after that, like, oh, it feels different moving forward because now all of our money is working for us as opposed to all of our money working to undo damage. Damage control is never a good place to be in mentally, and it isn't a good place to be in financially either. Damage control is not working for you. It is undoing the bad, and you need to undo the bad before you move on to the good. But there's still not a lot of hopefulness when you're in those damage control months. And so being out of that was what really started, like, as we moved forward after paying down the debt, that's when we started to feel this sense of peace and relief and like, oh, wow, okay, now we're actually saving for something. Now we've got money sitting there in the event of an emergency, and it's not just $1,000 that we hope will get us through what is hopefully a small emergency. And so it's those little things that sort of build up every single month to give you hope for what you've got going on the next month and the month after that, and then the year after that, and the year after that. And now we're talking about things for our future that kind of just felt like very distant dreams, but now feel like something that is a potential to be reality. And that is what I would encourage you toward. If you are still in the debt payoff phase of your budgeting, just power through. I know it's difficult. I know it's stressful to work extra hours. I know it's difficult to maybe have less time with your spouse and your children. But I promise you, if you just kind of hunker down and power through that, it really does feel so much better on the other side, and in a somewhat inarticulable way, but it really does. Like the piece that just continues building on top of itself after you pay off that debt is something that I can't even put into words. So stick to it. I promise you it's worth it. If you're just starting at the beginning, you'll be surprised how quickly 6 months goes by and how quickly that first year will go by and how much progress you'll make. And you get to look back at this thing that you've achieved. You may not even pay down your debt in your first year, and it may not even take you 2 years. It may take you longer than that. But you'll feel so proud of the work that you're doing. And then you'll start to feel those little glimmers of hope as you move toward paying that off for what your potential is after you do. So stick to it. Please, please, please. I encourage you to stick to it. And that is it for me for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. And if you did, I would love it so much if you would give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. If you have already paid off your debt, please leave something encouraging to say to somebody who is maybe in the midst of paying their debt off, or as we all remember what that felt like at the very, very beginning of paying it off, because it still feels like this huge load over top of you. So let's leave something encouraging down in the comments for somebody who may be at the very beginning of the process of paying their debt down. I hope that I've encouraged you throughout this video as well. And that's going to be it for me for today. So I will be back here with you guys again on Friday with the weekly check-in. If you are new to my channel or new to this system of budgeting, the weekly check-in is probably the most important bit of discipline that you can enact when you're budgeting, and that is tracking all of your expenses. Because if you don't do that, you don't know that you're staying on budget and you're not holding yourself accountable. So this is like the video that I filmed that kind of showcases that process. And it's also one in which I'm a little bit more chatty than usual, if you can imagine that. If you've stuck through this video, I don't even know how long it is at this point, but I hope that it has been beneficial to you in some way. And I hope that you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will be back here with you again on Friday. Just as a reminder, my Etsy shop is still 25% off, and we are still taking Q&A questions for the Q&A video that we're going to be filming toward the end of this month, beginning of next month. So if you have a Q&A question to leave us, go ahead and leave it down in the comments below, and we will try to answer it to the best of our ability. But yeah, that's going to do it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be back here with you guys again on Friday. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.